As you'll recall, the previous version of the Slideshow app was not capable of storing the slideshows out to the device and loading them back into the app. However, that is one of the major changes to this version of the app, and when we initialize the slideshow activity via its onCreate method, we're going to attempt to go ahead and load up the existing slideshows if there are any. Now, to do that, we begin at lines 63 through 65 by creating a file object called slideshow file. It's a new file object that's initialized with the result of the string concatenation that I've highlighted, which is going to specify the absolute path to the file that contains the slideshow info objects. Now, if in fact there are no slideshow info objects that have been saved out previously, then we will detect that in our load slideshows task, which we'll look at in the next video. So the new file object is being initialized with a full path as I've specified. In this case, the name of our file is enhanced slideshow data.ser, and the .ser extension is not a requirement for serialized files. It's just something that we chose to indicate that this represents a set of serialized objects. Now, the inherited method getExternalFilesDir is going to give us the file location for external files, and normally that is an SD card. However, if a device does not support SD cards, because not all devices do, this could represent an actual location on the device's file system as well. We then take the result of that method, and you can see here by hovering over it that it returns a file object, and we call getAbsolutePath on that, which gives us the string path that represents that location on the device, and then we add to that the / character and the name of the file that we'll be using to store the slideshows and to load those as well. Now, once we've got the file location at line 66, we create a new load slideshows task, and we're going to be loading the slideshows in a separate thread of execution so that we keep the GUI responsive. Remember, if you have lots of slideshows saved out to the device, it could take some amount of time to reload those for the purpose of displaying information in the slideshow activity. So we want to make sure that we don't delay the GUI thread of execution, which keeps the application responsive. We immediately call execute on that task, and as you may recall, the execute method requires arguments, one of which is an array of objects that are the arguments to the doInBackground method, which we'll be looking at in the next video. In this case, we don't have any arguments that we need to pass, but since we still have to pass something, we've gone ahead and created a null value that is being cast to type object array for the purpose of invoking the execute method. In the next video, we'll take a look at what happens when the execute method gets called.